let's read this article.
Yes, do.
Okay. So first of all, I had to get this like headline page more than anything, because look at that. Like, look at the pictures they grab. And they reference Kitty, who we covered a couple days ago.
Yeah, I skimmed this when you sent it to me. So
were you able to see? The first time I opened it, it like blocked me out, and then the second time I opened it this morning, it let me read it. So I just screenshot it. I went, okay, I'm going to screenshot it now.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think I didn't use up my one free article from the New York Times yet, so I got to read it.
Okay, good. So anyway, nu metal, like, this blew me away. The only reason I even know about this article is because that piece we did on Kitty, like, was it last week?
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently the New York Times, like, nu metal is a big thing with kids my son's age, which it has been. Like, he and I went and saw Deftones last year on 420, and it was like a huge deal for him because all his friends were like, oh.
But now it's trending, right?
Yeah. So what this says is, it's got the Korn call out. Are you ready? The nu metal renaissance is upon us. Bands like Deftones and Slipknot are resonating with younger fans thanks to TikTok, the Y2K revival, and of course, enduring teenage angst.
I've never heard of the Y2K revival, but
yeah, I don't know what this is.
I'm ready for it though.
Yeah. So this is when Deftones hit Change in the House of Flies blared out of Tyson Burden's car stereo in April 2020, he started to choke up. It wasn't the tune's familiar growls or teenage nostalgia it prompted that made him almost cry. It was his 15-year-old daughter, Nia LaVey Burden, sitting in the passenger seat and reciting the words to the song. I wonder if her middle name is a reference to Anton LaVey, the famed guy from the Satanic Church. It could be. She knew all the lyrics, and my mind was blown, said Mr. Burden, 39, a retail manager in Jacksonville, Texas. I didn't even know there was a Jacksonville, Texas. I thought that was a Florida thing. Turns out Nia had discovered the band on TikTok a few months earlier. After the initial shock, he joined in, and the two threw their heads back and belted out the chorus. Nia is part of a growing group among Generation Z that is listening to nu metal for the first time. The subgenre, considered one of the most accessible forms of metal, blends a heavy sound with elements of hip hop, funk, and alternative rock. Think Slipknot, Korn, Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park, and Kitty. Slipknot, I do not necessarily lump into nu metal because I feel like they're like post nu metal, kind of like they are like Korn and Limp Bizkit on crank, basically.
I almost think Slipknot is more metal.
Totally.
And Linkin Park is, I mean, they started out kind of nu metal-y, but like they quickly went to rock.
They're pop rock. The thing is, with Linkin Park, I could see them kind of fitting into it because of they were kind of the wave of those like post Korn bands. And it's funny because we had a pet name for nu metal bands back in the day, and I don't know if I've told you this or not, but I think it's great. We called them dun dun wee bands.
I think you did tell me this once.
Yeah, because all their riffs go dun dun wee, dun dun wee, dun dun wee. So we're like dun dun wee. Oh, it's one of those dun dun wee bands. So anyway,
I mean, this is a weird list. It makes me think though. I and not to go off topic, but I saw this little clip. Sonny from POD. He was being interviewed. I don't know when it came out, but he was just sharing like, nu metal kind of got its bad rap when like bands that tried to mimic what real nu metal was, and then all of a sudden the quality started going down and stuff when all the mimic bands and stuff came on. So I respected that
totally. Well, and the reality is Rage Against the Machine and Korn are really kind of the genesis of it, because there were bands doing like Public Enemy. Anthrax was the first hip hop rock compilation I got into it, and even before that there was Aerosmith, Run DMC. But Korn, like Rage, like organically fused rap and rock together in a way that just made so much sense. And then Korn took that to the next level and made it darker and heavier, and kind of added more of the aesthetics of rap. I think like the dun dun wee thing is totally a product of rap, because that's like all those like those high pitched pitched up things that gangster rappers had in their songs. So anyway, Once a popular in the late 1990s and early 2000s, it has now found a second life among young listeners thanks to TikTok. The Y2. Okay, we already got that. For Asher Novell, listening to new metal is inspiring. You feel like you can do anything, says Mr. Novell, 25, a musician based in Los Angeles who performs under the stage name Freak. It's this
that's new metal right there.
Totally. If he has like cornrows or like spiked colored hair and like really baggy pants, that's it. It's this I don't care attitude. Like, you can look at me, you can stare at me, you can judge me, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. You know who else I think doesn't get enough credit for the new metal aesthetic is Insane Clown Posse, who we talked about earlier, because they really like all that like raver hop shit and the like dark raver shit is totally their aesthetic, like the Juggalo thing. And I never was a big fan of ICP, but I respect what they've done. You know what I mean? Like, with their in the indie world, they created this whole ecosystem around themselves. Silver chains over lacquered Liberty spikes, pants so big they put ball gowns to shame. I love me some Jinko. I actually bought my son Jinkos for his birthday a couple years ago.
Well, when I skimmed this article and I saw Jinkos, it must be further down. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a name I haven't thought of in years.
Straight up, I love Jinko, and their new stuff is actually really cool because they kind of toned it down and made it like a little more like business casual. You know, it's like it's still the baggy pants, but they're like nicely stitched and have like a more professional logo and stuff. You know,
well, I had some. They were never huge, but I knew some guys. I mean, that bottom must have been like 36 inches around. You know, it was huge.
Okay, I'm probably going too deep here, but when I was in my Jinko phase, I had a friend I lived in Utah, and I had a friend who ran this gas station, and she would let us go in the cooler and steal beer. And I could fit 4 40-ounce bottles of beer in my Jinkos. I could fit 2 bottles in the side pockets because the pockets were so deep, and 2 in the back pockets. So I would literally go in and get like 4 like MGD
160 ounces of beer
in my pants. Yeah. Like that's what those pants were for too. All the skaters wore those because they're like, they had shoplifting pockets, you know.
It looks like you got like a gallon of beer in your pants.
Like, is that 4 bottles of MGD in your pants, or are you just happy to see me?
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, part of new metal's appeal is its flamboyant style, and celebrities have taken note. Billie Eilish, I didn't even think about that, but yeah, she totally dresses new metal. Is topping her oversized outfits with baseball caps a la Fred Durst of Limp Bizkit. Machine Gun Kelly is gelling up his hair to 5-inch stalagmites. Wow. There's a word I haven't seen since 3rd grade science. And in June, Justin Bieber was spotted in a pair of baggy wide-leg Jinko jeans.
Here we go.
Good for the Biebs. Renee Dyer, 19, fell in love with new metal fashion before the music. She doesn't think a person needs to dress a certain way to be considered a fan, but her clothing choices are heavily inspired by new metal. It makes me feel as though I'm living in that era. Mrs. Dyer, a retail associate who lives in Toronto. Among her favorite pieces are Jinko jeans and Trip NYC pants. The bigger the jeans, the better, she said. I definitely appreciate that trend a lot more than the skinny jeans thing, because I could not get into the skinny jeans thing. Just like having balls, I guess, kind of like creates a problem there.
And you can't steal beer.
That's true too.
Yeah.
You can't fit beer in your skinny jeans, kids. How much beer can you fit in your skinny jeans? During new metal's initial explosion, visual aesthetics were central to the scene by design, said Alex Strang, a cultural analyst at Canvas 8, a market research agency. Okay, now this makes sense. There's some ad company probably going like, oh, new metal's a thing. We got to sell stuff behind it. Bands adopted flashy costumes, provocative stunts to distinguish themselves and grab people's attention. If you're TRL, Mr. Strang said, referring to a television program popular in the early aughts. And you see this weird thing with people rapping and shouting and being angry, and some people in boiler suits are wearing masks. You're going to want to put it on TV, right? This is what I love the New York Times for the record. Lines like this, referring to to a television program popular in the early aughts. What is that? Like the early aughts? Bring me some tea and crumpets, Winston. Nu metal's embrace of shock value led to a plethora of theatrical antics, such as when Mr. Durst blew up a boat live on MTV, and when members of the band Mudvayne attended the music video awards with fake bullet holes in their heads. More than 2 decades later, these bits are now ripe for recirculation on social media. For example, one popular Twitter account run by Holiday Kirk, a music journalist, posts bite-sized clips of absurd moments in nu metal history, frequently garnering tens of thousands of views. I haven't seen this account, but I'm going to have to check it out. We're almost done here. I said we were going in on the full article, so
yeah, it's fine.
On the internet, everybody has access to everything all the time, Mr. Strang said, and so Gen Z kids will just cherry pick the best bits of a bunch of different genres and be into everything like everything. It's like a bricolage in action. There's another one of those NYT nuggets, bricolage.
I've never heard that word in my life.
You know where I've heard it is there's a guy named Ammon Tobin who's kind of a DJ producer guy that I dig, and he has an album called Bricolage, and I didn't know. I thought it was a nonsense word until now. So
it probably still is.
It's like aughts, or what do you say up here? Aughts.
Early aughts.
The early aughts. Yes, Winston, in the early aughts, I'd like to have my tea. Historically, nu metal has appealed to outsiders who felt a strong emotional connection with its gloomy subject matter. The most diehard fans felt protective over their favorite bands and did not like the idea of normies, or people who were conventional or popular listening to nu metal in the 1990s. Either you were all in or you were a poser, said Lynn Thomas, 53, a long time. That's our people right there. A longtime Deftones fan from Pittsburgh, whose 21-year-old daughter discovered the band on TikTok. But now many Gen Zers are more concerned with socio-political issues such as abortion and LGBTQ rights rather than who am I hanging out with at the field party this weekend, Mr. Thomas said. Those damn kids. These spaces may be less exclusionary now, but fans say there is still a sense of gatekeeping among nu metal heads, whether it's older fans looking down on the newly initiated or pretension from people of all ages about the bands they deem uncool. Since Coal Chamber. Since discovering the subgenre in January.
I like Coal Chamber.
So when I heard that Big Truck song, I was just like, okay, come on, guys. Like, let's try a little harder. But that's just my opinion. Jay Katzey, a 17-year-old high school student in Bradenton, Florida, had connected with some fellow listeners on the internet, but he has also been called a poser, term his friend finds silly and childish. Who do you expect to support the band you love if you're pushing out anyone who shows interest? I do agree with that. It's not cool to punk out people that you don't agree with.
Right, but to be fair, it's also not cool to just follow the trend to be cool. If
True.
You're into the band, then good for you. But if you're just wearing a metal shirt just to
wear a metal shirt,
yeah.
Since discovering nu metal this year, Jay Katzey, a 17-year-old student in Florida, has connected with older fans on the internet. Some of them have called him a poser. Does he look like a poser? I don't think so. He looks like a typical Slipknot kid.
That doesn't look. Yeah,
I like the chain necklace. So that was the other thing. Everyone had their chains. Me and my buddy, this is what our contribution to nu metal culture is. We invented hat piercing. We had this whole thing where we would pierce the bill of our hat and put key ring chains through it. So anyway, that didn't catch on like it should have, but off the internet, fans are also creating physical spaces to cultivate the nu metal community. For the past 2 years, Sam Gaines, 31, and Danielle Steger, 38, both diehard nu metal fans, have organized sold-out nu metal night dance parties in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. I did notice there is a nu metal thing in LA that is always packed. So people go
a club or something.
It's they do emo night and nu metal night.
Okay.
In downtown LA. I think it's Echo Park, but I was down there for some kind of show and people were lining up and I was like, what concert is this? And the lady was like, oh, it's nu metal night. And I was like,
that's kind of cool though. It's when movie theaters show old movies and stuff, and it's a chance to experience it in a different way. Totally.
It's honestly, for me, it's if I'm going to go to a club, that's what I want to hear too. Right. I don't want to go hear a bunch of garbage ass, trance music or something. No offense to trance music. There is some good trance, but I'm just saying, if I'm going to go out to a club, I want to hear heavy stuff.
Music you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were people doing backflips off the stage, Mr. Steger said at one New York party in March. There was a whole row of headbanging, moshing. One man kept asking DJs to play that one song so he could propose to his girlfriend. Nobody could hear him and figure out the name of the song, so the man never went through with the proposal. He must not have been very committed then. What? That's weird. It's like, well, they didn't play the song, so I'm not proposing. We're almost done. The new metal wave isn't lost on popular artists today either. Grimes, 100 Gex, Rina Sawayama, and Demi Lovato have introduced elements of the subgenre into their sound. And some bands who were part of the initial new metal explosion are feeling the impact as well. In May, Kitty performed its first new song since 2011 at Sick New World, a music festival in Las Vegas featuring almost entirely new metal bands. The group went on indefinite hiatus in 2017, but Booker started calling again in the fall of 2021 because of renewed interest, said Mercedes Lander, 39, Kitty's drummer. It did take a little bit of talking into, Ms. Lander said, of the offer to reunite, but 1 year after the initial request, Kitty got back together. When we stepped on stage, I was like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. She said, this is a fantastic feeling. To Ms. Lander, it makes sense the songs she wrote with her older sister, Morgan Lander, when they were teenagers still resonate with people. It just kind of proves that teenage angst is timeless, she said. Morgan 41, Kitty's frontwoman, shared the sentiment. That's not to say there isn't still fire and anger in us now. Yeah, we're still pissed, she said jokingly. Mr. Burton, the retail manager in Texas, said that after discovering his daughter was into the Deftones, he showed her more of the band's discography, particularly the album White Pony, which he loved as a teenager. And in May 2022, he even found himself at a scene he had dreamed about for 20 years, screaming, headbanging, and thrashing at a Deftones concert alongside hundreds of sweaty, decked-out fans. He just never imagined that would be standing next to his daughter. Oh, that was beautiful.